This is April Federico with Brownies for Breakfast, and I am here with Leslie Bobb. She is a health and empowerment coach and author. She has a BA in psychology, a master's degree in public health, and is a certified integrative health and brain health coach. Her mission is to empower as many people as possible by teaching them that their health and happiness are within their control. She works with clients on amplifying their own impact in the world by improving the way the brains and bodies work. She specializes in the gut brain health connection and is a total nerd about fermented foods. She is a co-founder of Cultural Revivalists, where she provides education and coaching to her clients, and you can find her on social media by name or as Cultural Revivalist. So welcome, Leslie.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's just start with the basics. So I know that you specialize in gut health. So could you tell my audience who may not realize that Hippocrates once said all disease begins in the gut. And for those of you who don't know who Hippocrates is, who Hippocrates is, he is basically the father of all medicine, and he said that quote. And so for those of you who may not know, the gut basically controls everything in the body. So can you explain how that works, Leslie?
Yeah, I can explain a bit how that works. It's pretty complex, but the overview is that the gut has been called the second brain, and we now know that like 90% of our immune system lies along our gut tract. Gut has been prominent in medicine for thousands of years, as you just mentioned. It's also, I mean, you can see it in everything when you think about it. When you are nervous or you have a crush on someone, you get butterflies in your stomach. We have a gut feeling. That's how we just know things is in our gut. Trust your gut. So there's all sorts of references to the importance of the gut. And what modern science now is catching up to is why all that actually is valid. So that's one of our favorite things in my business, Cultural Revivalist, is sort of watching how medicine is keeping up with traditional lifestyle, or catching up with traditional lifestyle, and validating traditional lifestyles, so to speak. So when we talk about gut, it's really from like your mouth to your out, which is how my business partner puts it.
Yeah.
So it's really everything from as soon as you ingest something into your mouth, all the way down through your stomach, and then your large intestine, small intestine, and then out your colon. But it's generally going to be contained. A lot of what you hear about the gut and the microbiome is generally contained in the small intestine. Now, if you, the metaphor we like to use with our coaching clients is sort of like your gut lining is sort of like a castle wall.
Mm-hmm.
So inside the castle, you have, your population that lives in there working and, doing their different various jobs. And then your wall kind of protects them from the outside, from anything that might wish them harm and anything that might wish them well also. But there's like a gatekeeper that lets in certain people, doesn't let in certain people. So your gut wall is kind of the same thing. And when it gets damaged from being assaulted over and over and over again, if you have this like band of ragtag misfits outside, just like shooting cannonballs at it over and over and over and over again for like your whole life, it'll get a hole in it. And once it gets a hole in it, then things can leak in, things can leak out and get into your body and your intracellular spaces where they don't belong. And that creates a whole host of problems. So what science has sort of discovered is that like all chronic disease is sort of tied back to inflammation, and inflammation generally comes from something being wrong in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to look at it like system by system, your gut affects every system in your body. Like I mentioned, your immune system is housed in your gut. That's because your gut is the one major way that pathogens can get into your body. So if you think about it, your skin protects most of your body. You only have a few openings. So your gut is sort of the outside on the inside. So you take all of the outside world into your gut, but it protects it from the inside of your body through things like the gut lining. So you need to have your immune system in there because most of the pathogens that are going to come to your body are going to come through your gut.
Right.
Your gut also really plays a huge role in regulating your metabolism and all of your hormones. And I don't just mean testosterone and estrogen. I also mean your thyroid hormones and vitamin D production and adrenaline and all of these other things that are hormones that we don't necessarily think of right off the bat. So when we're talking metabolism, we talk about leptin and ghrelin, which are the hormones that tell you if you're hungry or full. And we talk about insulin sensitivity and glucose response, which are really relevant to your audience. So your gut really plays a major role in regulating how your metabolism functions. My favorite topic is how your gut affects the way that your brain functions. So we now know that a lot of the neurotransmitters that actually are how our neurons, our brain cells communicate with each other are created in your gut, either as a byproduct of some of the bacteria or because of the function of some of the bacteria. Your neurons, a lot of your neurotransmitters are created in your gut, and your brain and your gut, I did it backwards. Your brain and your gut talk to each other via the vagus nerve. So we've known that there's this giant pathway, communication pathway between your brain and your gut, but we always thought it was one way. And now we know that it's actually bi-directional. So your gut and your brain are constantly talking to each other all day long. So if your gut is sick, your brain is not going to work very well either.
Exactly.
So yeah, system after system really just, it's all kind of housed in your gut. If you think about it, the phrase from the very true fact that every cell in your body is literally built out of the molecules broken down from the food that you eat. You literally are what you eat. So if you're eating crap, you're building with crap. And we're looking at, the three pigs in their houses of straw, clay, and what were they?
I think it's straw, sticks, and
brick. Yeah. So you want to have a brick house, not a straw house, right?
Exactly.
And that comes from what you're eating and your body's ability to do what it needs to do with what you're eating. So you could eat the healthiest food in the world, but if your gut is damaged, you're not going to be able to break it down properly. You're not going to be able to absorb your nutrients properly, and your body's not going to be able to build properly. So
right. Yeah, that's really detailed, and yeah, I appreciate all your knowledge, and that really explains everything to how the gut regulates basically everything. So tell us a little bit about how diabetes plays a role in the gut, because I know that's what my audience would like to hear.
Yeah, that's actually a great topic. Diabetes, very similarly to other chronic illnesses, but in its own unique way, is actually the current science sort of suggests that it is in part like gut dysbiosis, gut imbalance can lead to diabetes.
Right.
And also diabetes can damage your gut. So it's like this vicious cycle that you get caught up in.
Right.
And that applies to type 1 diabetes as well as type 2 diabetes. I know that they're different topics, and type 1 diabetes is considered more genetic, whereas type 2 diabetes is considered more lifestyle related. But it is, there's actually some new science out that shows that people with genetic predispositions to type 1 diabetes when they're young, if they're given certain probiotics or exposed to certain prebiotic foods that feed the bacteria in your gut, that it does seem to play a role in preventing them ever developing type 1 diabetes. Right. So it does, when I talk about this, the pathways are a little bit different, but it does apply to both type 1 and type 2. So your gut, if your gut is damaged, it affects the way that your pancreas works. It can affect the way that your liver processes glucose, and it can affect the cell signaling, the way that insulin response works when so I'm sure most of your audience knows how all of this works, but like insulin is like the doorman that helps glucose get into the cells,
Yeah.
right? And then if you have too much glucose all the time, the cells don't need it anymore, and it becomes like someone is playing a prank and ordering pizzas to your neighbor's house over and over and over again, right? And the neighbor's going, no, we don't need any more pizza, but the pizzas keep coming and piling up on the door. Eventually the pizza place, which is your pancreas, runs out of delivery drivers because they're all out in the field. And so that's when your pancreas gets tired and doesn't produce insulin very well anymore. And additionally, your cells aren't receiving the glucose very well anymore because now they just ignore the door knock because they're tired
Right.
of the pranks, right? So on both ends, it gets messed up, and then you just don't have any way to get the glucose out of your blood, and bad things happen. So your gut actually helps mediate all of those functions
Hmm.
through enzymes and metabolites and all kinds of like complicated biochemistry. A lot of those things that make those functions work come from your gut. So if your gut is messed up, those functions aren't going to work as well. Additionally, if your gut lining has a hole in it, particles are getting out into where they don't belong, and that's where inflammation starts to happen in your body.
Right.
Now, inflammation is the cause of almost all of these illnesses.
Yeah.
They just manifest differently in different people based on your predisposition, your particular, like if you have a weakness, that's where the inflammation is going to attack. So it might be diabetes for you, it might be Crohn's disease for someone else, it might be lupus for someone else, but it's all coming from inflammation. And the inflammation is coming from your gut being compromised, your gut permeability is what they call it, when things can get through your gut lining.
Hmm.
So in that way, gut issues can contribute to you developing diabetes. And then once you have diabetes, all of that extra glucose in your blood and all of those other things that happen with diabetes further damages your gut. So it's like this cycle that you're stuck in now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And
Okay.
I know that diabetics are more susceptible to gastroparesis. Could you explain what that is?
So gastroparesis is when there's like smooth muscles that line your intestines, and they keep the works flowing. So
Right.
everything has to move from one station to the next, and those smooth muscles in the lining of your intestines help that happen. And then they get to the colon pushes them out, and
Right.
that's all like this smooth muscle, sort of like snake like kind of function.
Yeah.
So that's called gut motility, like the motion.
Hmm.
When you have low gut motility, things don't move through very well. And gastroparesis, I believe the technical term for gastroparesis is like low stomach emptying.
Yeah.
So basically, like you're not digesting and moving things through your system very well anymore. So it can lead to like constipation, acid reflux, bloating, all of those things that you feel like when you're not like when you're full, like things aren't getting broken down and moved through very well, which can also lead to other like long-term damage. But on a day-to-day, they just don't feel very good. You feel full, you feel heavy, you feel like tired, and the toxins start to build up in your body.
Yeah.
So not a good thing.
Yeah, definitely not a good thing. Yeah, I asked because like over the summer I was dealing with a lot of stomach pain, and my what do you call it? Gastroenterologist said we might have to test you for gastroparesis. And yeah, I wasn't 100% sure if it was that, because eventually it just went away. Um but I'm wondering from a personal standpoint, because that summer I started working out again. And when you start to work out again, does working out affect your um how like your stomach muscles work?
Absolutely. One of the top recommendations for constipation or low gut motility or gastroparesis is actually exercise.
Yeah.
So it affects your microbiome, which helps everything work better, but
Right.
also like the motion helps with like just moving the muscles, So like the top three tips, like right off the bat for those kinds of ailments is proper hydration, exercise, and fiber.
Right.
So even before, and I haven't seen a lot of gastroenterologists treating it super well.
Mhm.
Most like doctors are kind of just taught to like diagnose and medicate.
Right.
But even before you get to that stage, you can try those three things just at home, give it a little bit of time and see if it helps. I have a fourth trick up my sleeve, which is actually like my first go-to, and that's fermented foods, as we saw in my bio, but maybe we can get on that later.
Yeah, of course. We can actually get on that now.
Okay.
Yeah, so could you explain a little bit how like fermented foods work in your system and just what they are in general?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I start going too long, just cut me off because this is my favorite thing. So fermentation is like the oldest form of food preservation. It dates back as at least as long as fire does, as far as how we handle our food. It was likely discovered accidentally, but then it started being used by every culture in the world in order to preserve their food, so that they, during the winters and the lean months, they had food around to eat and they weren't starving anytime it wasn't summertime. What again science is now discovering is all of the beneficial health effects that fermented foods have. So fermentation, it's like most people are familiar with pickling.
Right.
It's like pickling, but pickling is like the cheater version of fermentation. So pickling, vinegar pickling is how most pickling is done. You just soak something in vinegar and sugar. That came around as like a cheat way to preserve food, but you lose a lot of the benefits that you get from fermentation.
Right.
The process of fermentation, one of my like mentors in the field actually calls it controlled spoiling,
Mhm.
which sounds horrible, but so all of our food has bacteria on it that just lives on it. Most
Yeah.
of that bacteria is healthy or neutral in our bodies. We've evolved to work with bacteria. There are very, very few bacteria that are actually pathogenic to us that cause us illness, like very few in the whole scope of things. So all of our food has bacteria and yeast on it. And what fermentation does is it basically creates a safe environment for that bacteria to populate more, to grow. And then the bacteria, in a sense, they start to almost pre-digest the food. They eat the sugars and starches in the food and then create as a byproduct all of these lovely like enzymes and vitamins. And so fermented foods are good for us on multiple levels, but the way that I'm describing it might sound kind of gross, like a baby bird eating pre-chewed food from its mom. But if you think of it more like what plants do for us, how they take in carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, and then they put out oxygen for us,
Mhm.
fermented foods, it's more like that kind of a process. So
Right.
what they need is what like their waste is beneficial to us, but when you eat fermented food, you get the beneficial bacteria, so the probiotics, to help your own gut flora, like have a lot of variety and a good thriving population in your city.
Mhm.
You get the enzymes and the vitamins and minerals that they produce as a byproduct. You also, they kind of unlock some of the components of the food that you may not be able to get otherwise, that isn't what's called bioavailable to you. So for instance, cabbage, which is one of the most fermented vegetables in sauerkraut, cabbage has different properties fermented than it does either raw or cooked. It
Yeah.
has like more B vitamins and lots of trace minerals and things in it when it's sauerkraut, like proper sauerkraut, not vinegar sauerkraut, that you are not able to get access to when you eat it raw or when you eat it cooked. So that's another benefit of the fermentation process, is it unlocks like magical abilities in our food that we don't get otherwise. So those enzymes that they produce help you digest your food and absorb the nutrients. They produce vitamins and minerals we need, particularly like B vitamins and K vitamins, which are vital to our health. And then they also just populate our city, so to speak. So multiple levels. So doing all of those things combined means that you get more nutrition from your food. you're more resistant to illness from other like bad bacteria,
Right.
and it helps reduce inflammation and those kinds of things in the body. So eating fermented foods lowers inflammation.
Yeah. Sorry, you can hear my dogs in the background because someone's at the door, but yeah, but that's really interesting. Yeah, I've heard a lot of like good things about probiotics for the gut and especially sauerkraut and sorry, my dogs are kind of distracting me a little bit, but um but yeah, that's a lot of helpful information. And so what do you recommend in terms of foods for diabetics?
Good question. Great question. So I know that anyone who has a diagnosis of diabetes has been given a lot of information. It is an extremely common illness now, so there's a lot of information out there. Most of the information that you receive hopefully is going to be actually good for you. It's not all, so you definitely need to confirm and verify. What I recommend for diabetics is the best diet for curing diabetes and getting off your medications would be like a low carb, high fat kind of ketogenic diet.
Right.
However, that's a lot for people to take on. Not everybody's really into that. So the closest to like a normal diet that I would recommend would just be to avoid processed carbohydrates, avoid sugars, and really try to lean into healthy proteins and healthy like complex carbohydrates, which would mean like sweet potatoes, maybe some non-gluten grains in their whole form. I really advise diabetics to make sure they're getting healthy fats and plenty of protein, and really prioritize breaking up with your addictions to things like breads and sweeteners. Like a lot of people, and we all have to do the best we can where we are. So if you are doing sweetener substitutes instead of sugar, that's a step in the right direction, but I would really strongly advise that being a step in your journey to where you can get off of those things almost entirely and just be getting your sweet kicks from natural sources. Because when you find sweet in nature, it's already combined with the things that you need to process it in your body properly. So you're gonna, if you eat fruit or dates or something like that, you're gonna be getting fibers and all of the other things that your body needs to really handle that sugar. If you take apple juice versus an apple, it is going to have an extremely different response in your body, regardless of what messaging there may be out there. And I will tell you that the commercials and the messages that you see that say that all sugars are the same in the body are funded by the sugar industry, like not even making jokes. So that is not true. All sugars are not the same in the body. And when your body gets sweet, it also needs nutrients. If it's getting sweet without nutrients, what happens in your brain is it goes, hey, cool, that was great, but we still need more food.
Right.
So artificial sweeteners actually make people eat more.
Yeah.
And artificial sweeteners reduce the variety of your gut microbiome. So artificial sweeteners is going to be like a genetic cleansing in your castle city. Like it's going to wipe out like 2 out of 3 of the different types of workers that you have in there. So that is really, really bad for your health. So even though they might be better for your insulin response than sugar, they aren't good for you, no matter what the companies that make them say. So use that as a step in your journey. So obviously that's an important part of my recommendation. So I would say adequate protein, healthy fats, lower the sugars and carbs, and add fermented foods to your diet.
Amazing. And so we are almost out of time. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
So I think the biggest message that that we share to our clients, my business partner and I, is that one, you do have power over this. Like you have it within you to heal your body. Your body was designed to heal and function properly. Your body's not working against you. It's not your enemy, and it's not broken. You just need to, get out of its way and create the right environment and let it do its thing. It is designed to heal. So we work really a lot with our clients on healing the relationship with their body, because we, especially women, kind of are taught like from a young age that we're fighting our bodies. We're fighting a cold. We're, always trying to lose weight or change the way we look or change our shape. And, it's like all the terminology is just fighting and battle the bulge and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But your body is not, your body's not your enemy. Your body has like continued to keep you alive despite what you've done to it. So that's the first message. And then the second message is just to have grace. So very similar, but like you've done the best you can with who you've been in the past. And when you can do better, do better. So as you're learning more, just do better. No sense like being mad about what you've done, only move forward. So we teach our clients to treat everything like an experiment. And that really takes all the guilt and the shame and the pressure out of it. So if you do eat the thing you're not supposed to eat, just say, okay, well, I ate that thing. Let's see how it feels. Did it feel worth it? Did it not? Did it make me feel like crap? Is it no big deal? And now I know I can eat that thing every once in a while. So everything's an experiment. There isn't like a right or wrong answer. It's all just a journey to figure out what your body is asking you for and then listening to that response. So that would be my final, and eat fermented foods.
Yes. Of course, you can't forget those fermented foods. And yeah, that's really a heartfelt message, because I teach my clients that it's all about the mindset. And for those of you who are not familiar with my method, it's basically confidence and intelligence create emotional resilience to optimize. And essentially what that means is that it's all about getting out of your own way and just doing the thing, and just kind of taking care of what you need to take care of. And because it really all does come from within.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And yeah, so thank you so much, Leslie. And this has been Brownies for Breakfast, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for having me. Bye.